All right, let's roll, guys. Thank you, Russ. Appreciate you doing that. All right, so hey, so today, as you know, you're going to see a lot of what people stand for, and so I wanted to start off with just a thought from you, and I hope that I've seen a lot in those chat boxes, and we've got nearly 60 something people on this call. Hey, what I hope that you'll do is just take a moment and just write one of your gratitudes for the day. Number two is I want to ask you a particular question, and you're seeing this left and right all over the place, and that is, what do you stand for? Just want you to think about that for a moment. What do you stand for? Because look, today's November 3rd, right? We know the elections are happening. We know lots of stuff is going on. So what do you stand for? What is it that you stand for in regards to particular areas of your life? And I want to just name a few. And I was writing a few of these notes and got carried away. I wrote almost a page and a half of notes just in the short 5 minutes that we were here, but of doing our gratitudes and our intentions. But I first and foremost want to ask you, what do you stand for in relationship to your family? What do you stand for in relationship to your family? And whether that family be you, your immediate family, whether it's your friends, whatever you define as your family. But what do you stand for when it comes to your family? Second, what do you stand for in regards to your beliefs spiritually? See, I've always appreciated the words of Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins, who picked it up from him. But Jim Rohn, the late Jim Rohn, R-O-H-N, if you're not familiar with him, I sure encourage you to spend some time listening to what he put out there many years ago. But Jim Rohn said this statement. He said, it's more important that you decide what you believe and live it than anything else. So again, I go back to what do you stand for in regards to elements of your life? Number three, what do you stand for in relationship to your economics, the finance, the money within your life? What do you stand for? And the reason why this is so important to ask this concept of what do I stand for? And because I want to finish the statement, it really means what do we stand for means what are our standards? Because we don't get oftentimes, I've always appreciated this statement from many people who have said it, which is you don't get what you want, you get what your standards are. So if we don't get really clear on what we stand for, then the reality is that it's unlikely that we are going to achieve, accomplish, get, receive anything that we really ultimately desire because we don't get really clear on our standards. So I go back to the question, what do you stand for in regards to your family? What do you stand for in regards to your spirituality? What do you stand for when it comes to economics and finance, right? From your income to investments, you get your standards. It's the reason why we all have a temperature gauge. We get very quick, if we get off the mark from what our standard is, we get back very quickly in regards to our economics. It's interesting, economics, we can get back really quickly. But sometimes we lose our way spiritually, or we lose our way with our family and friends. So get very, very clear as to what are your standards in regards to those three areas. Let's just name a few more. What are your standards in regards to your health? Right? It's easy to see. There's certain people whose standards are really, really high, and there's people's standards that are really, really low. And there's people who will make excuses as to why their standards are very high. And there's people who make excuses to why their standards are very, very low. But either way, your health is a byproduct of your standards. You know, when you see certain people, what are their standards? It's not a criticism. It's not a cut on a dig on anybody. It's just a standard. And we get what we stand for. So what do you stand for in regards to your health? Fifth thing I want you to write down. What do you stand for when it comes to recreating, traveling, experiencing adventures, memories? What do you stand for in regards to adventure and memories? Great. Maybe you can't get on a plane today and travel as the last few days ago or whatever it was. Europe is now shut down completely for all US travel. Okay, great. Well, maybe that's not the adventure. Maybe that's not the travel, the recreation this year. But what other adventures will you have? What other ways will you experience this amazing earth that we live on? What cultures will you experience? What places will you travel? What things will you see? My observation is that We oftentimes just, again, same thing. We have standards in regards to how we travel, where we travel, what we do or what we don't do, experiences that we're willing to take on, cultures we're willing to experience, things we're willing to see, things we want to bring to our family, our friends, and things we want to experience. And you know those people who have a high level of standard in regards to the adventures of their life. And then you see people who frankly have a very low standard. And again, I'm not here to say one is wrong or right, but I do know that if you don't get really clear again in regards to your standards, it is unlikely that you're living the life that you truly desire. Because if you don't get clear on your standards, then you can never raise them, right? So again, what is your stand in regards to your adventure, your travel, your recreation? What does it look like for you? Next, I want you to write down what do I stand for in regards to my business? Not just the economics, but what are your standards, right? The standards of how many people that you'll help, the standards of who will be the one that you touch today in regards to your spirit, your soul, your energy, your your communication, your life. Who will be the person that gets touched by you because you showed up today? What is it that you stand for in regards to your business? What type of difference will you make today in your business, your career? I've often appreciated the statement of some people have a job and they kind of go, huh, I have a job. Some people have a career, which sounds a little bit better, but others are on a mission to helping, blessing, improving the lives of other people because their standards are so high. So, what do you stand for in regards to your business? And last but not least, I want you to ask yourself this: what do you stand for in regards to your legacy? What is your legacy? What is it that you stand for in regards to your future and to your past? At the end of the day, when it comes down to it, and you're sitting there on your deathbed, I think I would ask the question, and I will ask myself, I hope that I may have this chance to reflect upon my life, to be able to take a step back and ask myself, was my life a success? You may say, well, wait, George, I mean, what do you mean by that? I mean, look, success, as defined by the late Earl Nightingale, is this: it is the progressive realization of a worthwhile goal or ideal. So, what are you progressing towards? What are you moving towards? I was asked a question by a dear friend and an agent, Taylor Smith. I was standing outside with Dave Parker and Taylor and myself last night as we were walking out of the office. We stood outside and chatted. And Taylor asked a profound question. He said, man, after you've made money and you kind of arrived economically, what still champions your cause? Like, what makes you want to go forward and move forward and do more and achieve more and accomplish more? Like, where does that come from? And I remember it was a very easy answer for me last night to answer this question to him. And it was simple. It was, I am addicted to growth. And as long as I'm growing, I'm incredibly happy. And remember, and it was easy from my own personal experiences to say this. Now, you hear people say things like growth equals happiness. But can you reflect upon your own life that when you're progressing, as Earl Nightingale talk, towards something, when growth, see, some people will say, George, you know, you've done too much. You've got this company, that company, this mortgage company, this title company, this escrow company, rah, 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 rah. Excited, think somehow my economics, and anyone who knows me, that's not what I'm dialing it in, because of the great joy in my life that comes from the legacy of growth. So, what is your standard? How do you stand for your regards to your leadership, your legacy, the growth? What do you stand for? Right? What's important to you? Right? Is it just chasing some dollars? All right, back. Okay, that was weird. Haven't had that happen. Oh, now it's muted again. Maybe. All right. You guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you, George.
Oh, you hear me?
I texted
All
you
right.
the number
All
in
right.
case
Well,
you need to dial in.
no, that's fine. I didn't. It just my whole thing reset on itself. So, all right. If everybody can hear me, that's great. Thanks, Russ. And I can hear a few people. Thank you for the chat box. All right. So here we go. So let's continue on this path. So again, let's go back to, we start looking at things like our health. We start looking at our things spiritually. We look at our things within regards to our family. We look at things in regards to our business, our career, or maybe it's even our mission for life. Maybe it's the standards in regards to all of those factors of these equities that we talk about. You have to take a stand, guys. There's no fence sitting. And the fact is that if you don't take a stand in your life, who's going to do it for you? It's not going to be whatever president wins today or the next few days when they somehow conclude upon it. That's not going to be the definitive answers to your life of to what you stand for. There's too many examples of the Viktor Frankl in his books as in Man's Search for Meaning, or James Allen in his book As a Man Thinketh, or The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, which are three timeless classics, right? The Science of Getting Rich, the As a Man Thinketh, Man's Search for Meaning. Each one of these fundamentally speaks to the standards that we each play and live out in our life. So although we may be concerned politically, concerned of, some people are charged by the politics, by the freedoms, the Constitution, the violence, and all of those things may be valid. But what we cannot do, as I've been speaking to very strongly, is if we lose sight of our own standards. See, the great epidemic of humanity is to look all on the outside of ourselves for the answers. I can promise you that no matter what president wins today, it will not be the answers for the standards of your life. You may take a deep breath, a sigh of relief that with one president wins over another, but the fact of the matter is that the epidemic of humanity is to continually look outside of themselves for the answers. And the majority of the answers are within you. The answers to your happiness, the answers to your future, the answers to the life of joy, the answers for progression, to achievement, to adventure, memories, relationships, spirituality. All of these things are within us. So don't give up the one thing that you've been gifted with, which is the power to think, the power to reason, the power to come to conclusions as to what you desire, to what your standards are. Don't underestimate the magnitude of the power of your own mind, your own ability to reason, your own ability to come to conclusions and understanding. That's the beauty of humanity. But if we look to the media, if we look outside of ourselves for other answer known to mankind, the problem is that we will look back and recognize that we didn't live our life. We lived someone else's. So when it comes to your business, when it comes to the activities, don't get mired down. Don't get stuck. Don't allow yourself to find, this paralyzation that occurs when we pay attention to everything outside of us. The reality is you can't control every democratic process. You can't control interest rates. You cannot control mortgage programs. You cannot control the increase of inventory, the decrease of inventory. You can't control all the unemployment or the employment. You can't control so many things, but you can control you. You can control the way you think. You can control the way you feel. You can control what you choose to focus on. You can choose and control what your standards are and what you declare, not only to yourself, but to this universe or to God. You can do all things. You have the privilege and the right to declare them. And I am convinced by example after example of my own life and watching it within others that this universe has been built. This earth, this world that we live in has been built to give you everything you desire. So if you want something, make sure you're clear on what you want. If you want something, get really clear and ask for it. If you want something, right, then get really clear and say, man, this is my new standard for my life. Like this, I didn't get into this, but the standards of where you live, what you drive, the standards of how much money you have in the bank, the standards of how you pay your bills, the standards of how you treat people, the standards of when you walk into the local 7-Eleven or convenience store and who's standing there, who's helping you, who's checking you out. Do you have a standard that every person has intrinsic value, no matter who they are and where they come from? That fundamentally comes down to the standards that you set in your life. And I remember I used to be this guy who could walk into the business world and be like, hey, how's everybody doing? And then I'd walk into the local convenience store and I wouldn't give the person even the time of day. Didn't matter who they were. And I realized, man, that is not a standard I'm going to live my life. No matter who shows up in front of me, my new standard became no matter who they are, they're going to be better because they showed up, because of who I'm going to be. That was just a change of a standard. It was a declaration to this universe, to my own life. This is who I'm going to be. This is who I choose to be. So don't underestimate the fact that you have the power within you to set your own standards, to get really conscious as to what's happening on the inside and a lot less aware of what's going on the outside. Because look, you can get all ticked off, you can get angry, you can get frustrated, you can get mad. You can get all of those things by all the things that go on the outside. Or you can live in this deep sense of calm, this peace, knowing that no one can ever take away your right to think. No one can ever take away your right to perform what you want out of your life. It's the last thing they could ever do, no matter what the outcomes of life become. No one can ever take that away from you. So as you reason, as you think, as you conclude, as you collaborate, maybe even with yourself and others, come to the standards that in which you choose to live your life by. And some of you, one of the most important things that happens in regards to coaching for me, as I coach people, is all it is almost always, it's a challenge to their standards. It's a challenge to what they think is possible. It's a challenge to what do they think they could really do. And I got off the phone this morning. I was on the phone with, one of our amazing, incredible agents. She's the #1 in her category in the world for Century 21, not only last year, but is killing it this year. I mean, just killing it. And she said, George, I'm going to sell 155 homes this year. It's crazy. Tina Hare, because she has a different standard. And the thing is interesting is she will make several $million. But when I met her, she was only earning around $800,000. You may say, man, that's still a ton of money. Well, you're right. It is a ton of money. But I could see within her what was possible. And all I did was tell her what I saw and that she could raise her standard. Well, look, you know the story. Many of you know it. She was on the verge of maybe looking and going to a different company, diverting from her path, doing something different. Someone was giving her a signing bonus. Oh, it's going to be so great. I just got down to the grassroots of the challenges upon her standards, where she wants to take her life, where she wants to go, who she wants to become. And I'm not the one who did all the work. I am not the one to take credit for all the great things that she does. But what I am certain of, that whether it be the Dave Parkers of the world, the Justin Udys of the world, the Amy Clarks of the world, the Austin Kales of the world, the Tina Hares of the world, the Debbie Gateses of the world, the Judy Lewickis of the world, it doesn't matter. Because what I've observed in all of these amazing agents is that they raised their standard as to what was acceptable economically. Did they have fears? Of course. Did they have a great year and wondering if they could repeat it again? Of course they did. But the big challenge that I've always had with any of those people I just mentioned and others over the years is challenging people on what is possible. Because so many people on the outside will tell you what you can't do, what you're not able to do, what you can't achieve. And have you bought into that story? Have you bought into what's possible or not possible? Have you bought into what people are willing to tell you you can't do? Have you listened to your own story close enough? Think about this. Have you listened to your own story close enough and recognizing that it's a story of damnation? It's a story of setbacks. it's a story of absolutely not being able to achieve things? Is your story something that's empowering, powerful, strong, a message and a story that tells you what's possible for you? Have you bought into stories regarding your health that is not empowering you, that is not lifting you, not raising your standards? Have you bought into stories for your spirituality and your connection to your creator that somehow makes it to where you can't do the things you want to do, have the things you want to have? Have you used your spirituality to lower your standards because life will be better later? What are the great tragedies and the gifts of this life? And all of a sudden you say things will be better after this life, so I don't have to try here. Shame on you. This life is a gift. Take advantage of it. Raise your standards. Growth equals happiness. Become more in every area of your life. And people tell me, man, but just listening to you makes me tired. Yeah, it'll be tiring. It will be exhausting. But when you are dead, you'll have plenty of time to rest. Because you're right, it is tiring, but man, it is rewarding, so fulfilling, such a spiritual quest of life to become more so that you can do more. As you become more, you help more. As you become more, you're able to achieve more. That's the beauty of raising your standards. That's the beauty of just simply saying, man, what do I stand for? Not what does Fox News tell me I stand for? Not what does C stand for, and so now I stand for it. Not what does CSNBC stand for, and well, now I'll stand for it. Right? I mean, what do you really believe? What do you really stand for? What do you stand for in regards to this business? You know, there's lots of people tell you how much business you can do. Some people tell you, some trainers will say, be realistic. Well, what does that mean? Nothing about what I've created is realistic. I have a mile long of people telling me what couldn't be done. Even the very person I can think about that says, be realistic, would tell me that. And finally, after 7 years, he asked me this question, George, I don't get it. I said, well, what don't you get? He said, I don't get it. How can you have year over year 100% growth? I've never seen it happen. Interesting. But the same person speaks to thousands of people and says, oh, be realistic. The only thing that is realistic is the one thing that is that whatever you stand for is what you're going to get out of your life. But I can promise you, if you can get your mind right, your heart right, and your actions in alignment with what you desire and what your standards are, I can promise you from my own personal experiences, I've had massive tragedies in all areas of my life. But I can promise you, if you know what you stand for, even amidst the crisis, amidst the chaos, in the midst of all the challenges, you will persevere. You will rise like the phoenix out of the ashes. You will rise because you know what you stand for. You know where you're going. You know where you're going in those fundamental areas, economics, your health, and the most precious and important relationships of your life. Guys, if you haven't figured out yet, the real estate business is not a complicated business. We complicate it. We do. So what is it about your business today that seems so complicated? Simple business. Talk to people, convey an intelligent message that's conveyed with some passion, some intelligence, some conviction, right? Solves problems for people, right? You're a problem solver. And therefore, once you talk to them, you close a few people on a contract and you go to the closing table after a little bit of awesome customer service and maybe a little bit of negotiating, and you're on your way. And repeat the process over and over again. Talk to people, sign a contract, close the deal. Doesn't seem too complicated. So ask yourself then, what's the real problem here? Is it the market? Is it your governor? Is it your community? Is it the other agents? Is it what's not fair? Is it what you're blaming, victimizing, and challenging the world on, saying that it's just not working for me? Or is it just that you may not be working? Is it the standards that you've set in your life? Look, I'm never going to be the guy that doesn't challenge you. You can be mad about it. You can be frustrated about it. You can be offended by it. You can be exhausted by it. You can turn me off. You cannot listen to me. but you're never going to get the fact that I'm not going to sit here, pat you on the back for being completely complacent. I'm not going to pat you on the back for not achieving anything. I'm not going to give you awards for poor productivity. It's just not who I am. I would never do that for my own children. I would never do that to my closest friends. I would never do that for the people I love the most, and I will not do it for you. Because what I know is what you're capable of achieving. And if anyone I sit with, when I look at them, I can look them straight in the eye. And it doesn't matter who I'm talking to. I can look at people who have every reason to tell me they cannot succeed. I was just sitting down yesterday. I so appreciated my conversation with Lou Tran yesterday. And I was watching her. I was thinking, man, what a story as a refugee from Vietnam. And here she is, one of the top 10 agents in Utah, top 100 agents worldwide for Century 21. What is it about this woman that drives her to do so much? What is it about her that makes it to where she doesn't buy into the excuses? What is it about her that makes her raise a standard that is so high? I don't know necessarily, because I sit there perplexed and I look at anyone and I look at the person who has all the talent, all the opportunity, all possibilities, all the things that would say, man, this person should make it, and they don't. And then you meet people that have every reason to not succeed, meaning like validated. We can look at them and go, wow, I can see why it could be very, very tough for you. And we would validate it and say, I understand. And we would be empathetic to it. But not for Lou. Not for a number of people on this call. They haven't bought into a low standard. They haven't bought into the stories of others. They haven't bought into what other people say they can or cannot do. They haven't bought into all the excuses that we will all give to not have a high standard when it comes to any area of our life. Whether you're an agent on this call, whether you're one of my managers on this call, you have a standard as to what you accept. It's how it works, gang. We all have standards, and we get what we stand for, not what we want. Remember that. You get what you stand for, not what you want. And you raise that standard, you're going to get what you want if your standard and your want align. That's what will happen. But the default in our life, in our business, in our health, and in our relationships, always defaults back to our standards. So if you have a really high standard, then I can promise you're going to have a really high success ratio. And yes, you'll fall down. Yes, you'll get knocked down. Yes, you'll have moments of temporary defeat and setbacks, like Napoleon Hill has said in his book, Think and Grow Rich. Yes, you will. You will have moments where you'll be like, I don't know how to do this. But in the great words of Les Brown, if you haven't heard Les Brown, he's great. He gives a great talk, and he always says these words: how is none of your business. How is none of your business. So again, set the standard, and then let's figure out a way to get there. Don't default to your filter of, well, I don't want to set that goal because I don't know how I'm going to achieve that goal. That's not how winning is done. Set the standard, set the victory, set the mark as to where you're going to go in any and every area of your life that's important to you. And now let's figure out the pathway to getting there, whether it be in your business, whether it be in a new relationship that you want. Maybe it's any area of your life. I'm telling you, this is where it happens. It is about being aware and conscious and mindful of standards. Don't underestimate it, gang. Do not forget how important these things are. You want an extraordinary life? It comes with extraordinary growth. And as you become more, you will earn more. So raise the standards of your life. Don't settle. Don't be complacent. Don't back down. Don't listen to the people who tell you what you can't do, because I'm here to tell you there's so much you can accomplish and so much that you can do. In closing, be emotionally disciplined. In closing, remember I said this, be emotionally disciplined. There has never been a time in our lives where greater discipline has been needed when it comes to our emotions. There is going to be a lot of emotional uproar no matter who wins this presidency. Yourself, do your neighbors, your family, your country a favor, have some level of emotional discipline. It is needed more than ever. Love, light, truth, courage, as we all, those are a requirement in regards to as we raise our standards. Let's eradicate all hatred, violence, right? All poisonous thought and action and words. It's not who we are. And you wouldn't be on this call with me today if that's who you were. So stand for something. Stand for the light. Stand for love. Stand for goodness. Show respect. Show love. Show encouragement. Show a little bit of faith. Because that's what it's going to require as you move through and garner the idea of emotional discipline. Don't go crazy. Don't go nuts. Don't go out of control. It's not who you are. It's not necessary. Stay within the lines of those emotions. Keep your discipline in regards to your emotion, the words that you speak, and the actions you take. Discipline equals freedom. You want more freedom? Be disciplined. Discipline equals freedom. It is always and always will be the answer. In closing, know how much I love you, how grateful I am to spend time with you guys. Have an extraordinary rest of the week. Finish strong. Finish strong. Remember, most of the people right now are checking out. Don't let that be you. Go make the calls, talk to the people, and have an extraordinary day and an extraordinary week. We'll talk soon.